which honestly, better for me. And we are live.
Welcome, everyone, to the 12th episode of Season 3 of the Worldwide Wednesday podcast.
I'm your host, Sovereign.
And I'm Shiny.
And we are live. Uh-oh. Mute it.
Oh, no.
12th episode
My mouse!
Of Season 3 of...
Alright, I thought we were past these kinds of mishaps here.
Okay, stupidity aside.
You're the one in charge of all of our audio.
I forgot I opened it. I remember I muted the TV.
Okay. Well, anyway, meme starts to the podcast aside. Let's go ahead and get right into it. We've got a lot to discuss today.
Yeah.
We saved a lot of Star Wars stuff for this week, but we've also got some small Marvel news here and there. Nothing that would take more than 15 minutes. And then politics things as well. We got some major W's here, but our borders, it seems like it's a little more stressing than one would hope.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get into it, shall we?
Yeah. So the first thing we want to talk about is Tales of the...
It is a little vignette series, about 6 episodes long, all close to 11 to 15 minutes long. And gotta say, as a non-Star Wars fan, or non-Star Wars...
Excuse you!
As a non-Star Wars The Clone Wars fan, I gotta say, I'm a little hooked on it right now. I'm not gonna lie. So
yeah,
pretty much the whole premise is that it follows like the tales of the Jedi. Particularly, we see backstories to Ahsoka and Dooku, which honestly was not anticipating at all. Like Episode 1 was very it clued you in as to what this series would be about, like little vignettes about Jedis from the Republic age.
Yeah.
But to see that we only follow 2 Jedi, that was pretty interesting.
Well, I find it appropriate that we follow those 2 Jedi. For one, because they are part of the same lineage.
Yeah.
Dooku trained Qui-Gon, who then trained Obi-Wan, who then trained Anakin, who then trained Ahsoka, who then trained Luke, / Obi-Wan also trained Luke, who then trains Rey.
Yep.
Technically, Yoda is the top of it because Yoda trained Dooku, but we're focusing on basically like the patriarch and the youngest, like the old patriarch of the lineage and the youngest of the lineage. And I also think it was important to focus on those 2 because the most notable aspect about both of them is that they left the Jedi Order.
Yeah, and for, I wouldn't say very similar reasons, I would say very different reasons.
Very different reasons.
Because, as we get into in this show, Dooku's departure from the Jedi is due to how he sees the corruption of the Jedi as a tool of the Senate, completely opposite to what he reviews his role as a Jedi is.
Yes.
Whereas, now you've seen Clone Wars, so you can describe Ahsoka's departure.
So Ahsoka departs from the Jedi, partially because of similar reasons in terms of the circumstances behind them. To make a long story short and not to spoil you too much, Ahsoka is framed for a terrorist attack done on the Senate. She's framed for this terrorism, and because of the interconnectivity between the Senate, the military, and the Jedi Council, Ahsoka basically nearly gets court-martialed. She's imprisoned and excommunicated from that Ahsoka has been framed. The Jedi try to pass it off as, oh, well, this mark of, like, this trial and tribulation is a true mark of your excellence. So we're going to promote you to Jedi Knight, actually. But she rejects it because her faith in the Order has been shaken to its core. That they would sooner believe the lies of criminals, the Senate, and the military than trust in the Force and know that she was innocent.
Yeah.
So she feels that the Jedi as an institution is not well equipped to truly serve the people. And so she leaves because she feels that she can serve the people better as her own individual agent, which we see more of in Star Wars Rebels, as well as in the Bad Batch, as well as, not the Bad Batch, sorry, Star Wars Rebels and the last season of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, and also Mandalorian Season 2 to a small extent.
That is more post the Empire, so it's a different thing, but kind of the same, yeah.
Yeah, especially considering that we will be seeing more of her character later on when she gets her own show.
Yes.
But do you want to go through each of the episodes one by one, give our small thoughts and opinions of it?
Yeah, so the first one was Life and Death.
So I saw this one as pretty much like What If Episode 1. It clues you in to what the show is going to be about, which is a small vignette series.
Yeah.
It was a cute, inoffensive little vignette.
Yeah. I really liked how it shows some things such as, like, the fierce independence of the Togrutas. Because, like, in Star Wars canon, they're known to be so fiercely independent they don't join the Republic. Which become a problem later on down the line during the Clone Wars. There's an entire arc about the consequences of being neutral and independent from the Republic during a war like this. But it was really nice to just see it, but also see how they raise their own. Because Star Wars, when it comes to how children are raised outside of, like, the Jedi Order, you kind of see things like how it happens in the real world. Or, like, not real world, but mainly in hegemonic ways of raising children.
Yeah.
While this is actually something more akin to, like, indigenous civilizations that were independent and fostered, like, cultures of community that were much stronger while also being powerful on their own.
Yeah. Because it seems like they were, like, how I interpret it is they were a previously tribal society who still holds on to their traditions but are advanced for Star Wars standards.
Yeah, I mean, they use droids, they have blasters, like, very clear. And clearly they have knowledge of who the Jedi are. Meaning they're not, like, cut off from the rest of the galaxy.
Yeah.
They know what's out there.
Because
they just choose not to be a part of it.
Because as members of the community point out, because what's showed is that Ahsoka goes through, like, not a trial, but, like, a tradition of
facing life and death.
Exactly. Which people are pointing out, like, we haven't had a child in so long and you're doing this. It's very...
Yeah.
But I guess it's just them preserving tradition.
Exactly, and I really like that. And it also shows that Ahsoka, just like most Jedi, is attuned to wildlife. All Jedi through the Force are better attuned to wildlife, and so this is her doing it with the Sabertooth.
Yeah.
Overall, I would give this about 6 out of 10.
I don't really actually feel comfortable rating the vignettes, honestly, because
yeah,
they're not meant long
yeah.
at the least. So
it's kind of like I Am Groot.
Yeah, it's kind of pointless to rate them all, but I will rate the series.
Yeah, I'll rate the series. We'll do what we did for I Am Groot.
Yeah.
So...
Episode 2 actually is a bit of a step up, I will say.
So Episode 2 is on-screen point in the timeline that we've seen for Star Wars.
Yeah, because
This is during a time which, while if you are a longtime fan, you recognize the character model, you recognize the voice acting.
I actually have seen clips of Clone Wars. Like, I haven't seen the whole series, but you've shown me clips out of context, and I was like, oh, that's Dooku.
Yeah.
And then I put two and two together, and I was like, oh, wait, that's Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Like obviously Qui-Gon is aged down significantly because this takes place in the significant past.
Yeah, this
But
is way pre Phantom Menace.
Yeah, exactly. Because he doesn't even look like Liam Neeson, like a disheveled 16-year-old.
Which is funny because Qui-Gon was voiced by Liam Neeson's son in this episode, and then voiced by Liam Neeson for the rest of the series.
Speaking of which, how in the world do they still get him on board with these? Like, I know that Disney money is strong and all, but...
He did it before the Disney buyout. He cameoed in the Clone Wars before the Disney buyout.
But still, like, he's still a part of this franchise 20 years after. That's amazing.
You can't waste Liam Neeson. Like, technically, you could consider him wasting the fact that he died in the first movie he was in. So the fact that he gets to show up in Clone Wars, Rebels, this, Obi-Wan, voice cameo in The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
So,
and I'm just surprised how often they bring him back.
and also, it's probably pretty easy. Like, the day they probably got him to do the Obi-Wan scene, they probably pulled him into the sound booth.
You know what? Fair, yeah.
I mean, it's not like he has many lines in this show. And plus, like, there's a whole... The episode with his most lines is done by his son anyway, who's an adult.
True, but let's actually get to the substance of the second episode.
But I wanted to continue with the framing of the fact that if you're just a casual Star Wars person and you didn't catch it, they don't actually say their names at all until the very end. Meaning, for a lot of people, this could just be like a story of just the temptation of the dark side to any Jedi.
Yeah. Because,
But if you're a super fan, you obviously know it's Dooku, which gives it added weight.
and I'm not even like a super fan. I just caught right on.
Yeah.
Especially because of the curved lightsaber.
Curved hilt lightsaber. But the meat of it is basically Qui-Gon and Dooku were sent to this planet because of a hostage situation. A powerful senator's son was taken hostage by terrorists, and they are there to defuse the situation. And immediately upon touching down, you realize, oh no, the place is destitute.
Yeah.
It is absolutely impoverished. Like, we see, like, a dog that is just, like, so skinny, its skeleton is showing. And, like, all of the citizens are clearly, like, disheveled and covered in dirt, and the droids are barely powering on to do their duties because...
And as we learn to find out, the policies of the senator that controls that planet isn't actually doing that much for its people. And so the people of the planet rebel and say, okay, we're kidnapping your son, please do something about our situation.
And the other plot twist of it is that the son actually agrees with the terrorist. He actually is fine being their captive after realizing he lived a privileged lifestyle. He realized the privileges that he got from living in the capital and on Coruscant had made him blind to the people that his family was swearing to protect. And so he actually supports the terrorist. And then Dooku and Qui-Gon, after hearing the terrorist out, also support the terrorist. Because they're like, no, they're right too. And so, like, since there's technically no hostage situation, Dooku is just like, okay, well, we'll just go back and tell the senator that his son's fine and doesn't need rescuing. But then the senator shows up with his militia, and this is where things go bad.
Yeah, and it's also just like a super clear indication because to Dooku, this is like the most clearest example of Jedi Senate corruption that could take place.
Exactly. Like, he is sent here to save the senator's son, but then the senator's son is fine, but then the senator tries to leverage Dooku and Qui-Gon to attack the terrorists, despite the fact that at this point, no real crime, so that they could take it on their armor, and then he starts to force choke the senator, and nearly murders him in cold blood, saying this level of corruption needs to be eradicated.
I mean, it takes Qui-Gon's fast thinking to free the son immediately, and
than both of them running over to Dooku to stop him.
Yeah.
And it's only once the son looks into his eyes and Qui-Gon holds his shoulder that Dooku realizes he's falling to the dark side. And you can clearly see he's disappointed in himself that he came to that, but you can also see he doesn't feel that bad because it's not like it was to someone undeserving. The senator was a colossal piece of shit. And
also it's like, it's kind of depressing too, because like, as people who know Dooku's eventual fall to the dark side, it's like, he was really, like, because of the failures of the Jedi and the Senate, it really is like, he is a product of the system.
Really? Like,
I don't blame him for joining the Separatists now.
Exactly, like, you don't, like, you can hear him, like, the senator says, "You serve me," and he says, "No, my duty is to serve the people of this republic, not you," which was so powerful. Because, like, we know, like, we're told so many times that's what the Jedi are supposed to do. But this was the most clearest position that we've seen a Jedi on screen say, "No, we serve the people. That is our role." Like, because as much as we're told that in the movies, we don't see it.
Yeah.
Even in the Clone Wars, we don't necessarily get to see the Jedi be servants of the people because it's mainly about wars.
I mean, hell, like, we see in Star Wars that, especially in the original trilogy, how Jedi are glorified as heroes of the people and, like, the defenders of the light side. And then, like, only in instances after the Disney or not even after the Disney buyout.
No, in the prequels.
In the prequels and examples after the Disney buyout, we see in The Last Jedi, we see it in this, we see...
And also throughout the expanded universe.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen that the Jedi were... While they were heroes, and they definitely were stewards of the light, and they were a net good to the galaxy, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. It was actually pretty bad. There was a lot of corruption, even of the light side. Not corruption in the sense they were falling to the dark, but they were clouded by the dark side around them, which cut off their true perception of how the people are.
Yeah.
So when people like Qui-Gon and Dooku actually go out and see it, they become labeled as mavericks.
Yeah.
Which ties into our next episode.
Yeah, where we skip forward a little years to...
Still, this is now the second earliest in the franchise we've been.
Yeah, because this is one is
It's still pre-Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
I believe this would take place right around when Ahsoka's born.
Yeah.
This episode seems to take place around the same time Ahsoka's born, because Ahsoka gets recruited in 36 BBY when she's 3 years old by Plo Koon. So, and Plo Koon is shown to be a master at this point, so it's around that time.
Yeah.
But anyways, we see Dooku and Mace Windu, which, for one, I'm actually really happy they chose these two Jedi.
Yeah.
Because in Attack of the Clones, you're told about how Dooku and Windu were friends, and the way they refer to each other when not in the other's presence shows that there is a level of respect. Like Windu, he doesn't believe that Count Dooku could be a murderer when Padme leverages those accusations. He's very quick to say, no, we disagree, but he's not a murderer. And then when Count Dooku offers Windu like an opportunity to surrender, he genuinely says, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry, old friend." So it was really good to see the two of them in this.
Good.
Yeah, I kind of do too.
Like, the chemistry